பண்ணிட்டாங்க இல்லையா? Nandini ma'am, can you hear me? See, listen. Two things. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes.
Multiple systems இருக்கிறதுனால இப்படி overlap
எக்கோ
ஆகுதா?
அடிக்குது எல்லாரும். இதுல கேக்குது.
Okay.
இல்லடா கேக்குது.
Ma'am, a few more minutes. We are setting in everything.
Okay, wait, not a problem, no rush.
Ma'am, so far, like about 10 people have joined. We have a few more people to join. Since this is that Zoho platform, people are taking a few minutes to figure it out and then join, ma'am.
Yes, yes, I will wait, not a problem.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, I welcome you all to part 6. A warm welcome to all the attendees joining us virtually. We are delighted to have you for today's physiology alumni lecture series 6, which is a part of the Silver Jubilee celebration of the MD Physiology. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all to part 6. Am I audible? Am I audible? A warm welcome to all the attendees joining virtually. We are delighted to have you for today's Physiology Alumni Lecture Series 6, which is a part of the Silver Jubilee celebration of the MD Physiology program at Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute, Chennai. This monthly online lecture initiative is designed to bring together our esteemed alumni, students, and faculty to share knowledge, inspire academic growth, and create a strong community of physiologists designed to benefit the current graduate and physiology enthusiasts of our institute and nationwide. This program shall reserve as a bridge between the past and present, fostering inspiration, collaboration, and academic excellence between the alumni of Department of Physiology. By creating opportunities for alumni to contribute to the academic growth of their alma mater, PAL 6 embodies the spirit of lifelong learning and professional development. Join us in celebrating this milestone and enriching the future of physiology education. It's a privilege to welcome Dr. Nandini Rangarajan ma'am to lead today's session. Before we proceed with the lecture, let us take a moment to learn more about her professional journey and significant contributions to the field. I now invite Dr. Shaktiya to introduce the speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today's session, Dr. Nandini Rangarajan, an experienced clinician and passionate educator with a remarkable academic and professional journey across both India and Australia. Dr. Nandini completed her MBBS from Gil Park Medical College, Chennai in 1995 and a proud alumna of 2001 to 2002 batch. She began her career as a medical officer at JB Hospital and then served as a general practitioner at SP Clinic, Chennai for over 14 years. In Australia, she cleared the AMC Part 1, AKT, KFP, and PACI and pursued FRE CGP and FACRR. Her teaching career includes tutoring loads at Notre Dame University School of Medicine, the University of Western Australia, where she also earned a Masters in Clinical Research. Clinically, she has worked as GP under supervision at Dolesville and Manchester and currently at Ruby Medical Center in Western Australia. She is a proud member of RECGP, ACRRM, and the country's Women's Association, and has undergone extensive clinical training in areas such as medicine. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nandini Rangarajan. Ma'am, I invite you to take the stage and begin your lecture. We are truly truly excited to learn from you. Stop sharing the screen.
Can you hear me? Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Nandini, can you
Yeah.
hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you unmute yourself and ma'am, speak and check with the audience if you're audible, because we are able to see the screen, ma'am.
It's unmuted.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Yep. Okay. So thank you for giving this opportunity. And then I'm really excited to share whatever I know. And then thank you for the kind introduction. I would like to introduce myself like Nandini. I did my undergraduation in Kilpak Medical College and MD Physiology in Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute 2002 batch, second batch.
Ma'am,
And
sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Could you switch over the presentation to slideshow mode, ma'am?
how to do that? Instead of sharing?
No. You have to share in your PowerPoint screen in your laptop or desktop. Please go to the slideshow. You will be able to only see your presentation, not the Zoho screen after that.
Is it correct?
No, ma'am. You have to go to the slideshow. You have to say from current slide or from beginning.
Yep, from beginning. Is it okay now?
It has not moved into the slideshow. Or lower.
It is.
Just a suggestion. Could you please, stop sharing, close the PowerPoint presentation, open it once again.
Okay.
Then, is the PowerPoint open, ma'am?
Yep.
So please share the screen now.
Yes.
And
Okay.
please minimize the Zoho screen.
Share and minimize.
And then
Yep.
now off to your PowerPoint, ma'am.
Yep. Can you
And
see
then,
me?
yes, ma'am. Now can you click the slideshow icon down right or from beginning? Either way it works, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. This is my first slide.
It's your first slide, but it is not projecting in the slideshow in our screen.
Okay.
Has it
So
gone to the slideshow mode on your screen, ma'am? On your screen?
yes.
Okay, okay. Okay. Sometimes this issue, happens. What I would suggest is our participants can definitely zoom into the screen and see when they need it. But if it is difficult, then we would interrupt you and we would try switching over screens, ma'am. But for now, from the first few slides that I see has lots of pictures. I guess we should be able to see it this way. Meanwhile, I'll just try. If it is becoming difficult, please allow me to interrupt you so that we can project it from
our side for you, ma'am.
Yes, all good.
Okay.
Like, otherwise, you guys can start projecting from your side also from the beginning.
Okay, ma'am. Just give us 1 minute. Can you please stop sharing? Sorry, participants, give us 2 minutes. We would fix this.
Yes,
Ma'am, can you
yes.
please stop? Yeah, okay. This is the PPT, right? Oh, okay. Enable editing, and then now you share the screen. Window, go to window. Go to window, and then go to physiology of activity, share. Okay, and then come here and put it on slideshow. It's the same thing. Okay, just give us a minute, ma'am. Entire screen.
Yes.
Just give me a minute, ma'am. Stop sharing. Put the panel. Okay, entire screen. Got it. Okay, now you go here. Yep, and full screen. Lovely, ma'am. Ma'am, you have to let us know next slide, so that we could keep changing the slides for you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, and I would just request my team, our audio is on, so you need to be careful about that as you move the slides. Okay, ma'am, over to you, ma'am. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, thank you very much, team, for giving me this opportunity. And yes, I was introducing myself as before, like undergraduation in Kilpauk Medical College and post graduation in Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, and then diploma in family health also in Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute. And yes, after from I finished it in 2004, and since then I was working for Sri Balaji Medical College until 2013. And because of the family situation and circumstances, we had to relocate to Australia. So we came in 2014, and I was really gifted and realized how I was fortunate because of doing physiology, because it's really hard, guys, like when we have to establish our clinical side of practice, it's really hard. But I was really fortunate to get a job in University of Western Australia and Notre Dame University as a sessional tutor, where I could actually meet a lot of people who are international medical graduates, and then slowly started giving all the assessment exams. And one more little story to share, like when I was attending the PESCI, which is called as pre-employment structured clinical interview for getting into the clinical side, what happened was it was actually the whole day interview, but maybe half a day for one candidate. And then they were actually telling like it was so hard because they were asking about the clinical examination of cranial nerves. You can understand, like, it's so easy for us physiologists in clinical teaching. I could do really well, and then by God's grace, I could actually get into my GP exams and then fellowship exams. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes, I am. I was living in Chennai since 1990 until 2013, and I really miss it. Next slide, please. So this is Western Australia, where we came in and then we settled in here. and I started working in a suburb. And then, can I have the next slide, please? This is called as a small town southwest of Western Australia, which is called as Bridgetown. Because of the mandatory requirement of rural moratorium for 5 years, we had to relocate here, which is almost like Kerala, the state. And then a river is running along there, so it's called as Bridgetown. Next slide, please. This is the place where I'm working at the moment, like it's called as Ruby Medical Center. And I'm working as a general practitioner with all allied health practitioners like psychologist, audiologist, and whatnot, everyone. And can I have the next slide, please? Yes, and I live here with my extended family. Those who know about me, I have 2 kids. I live with my husband and 2 kids, and Ruby, the German Shepherd, and 2 Groodles, Vashi and Bhairavi, and we also have 2 cows. One did not give the post today, so it is Krishna. Yes, the next slide, please. Yes, now we are going into the topic, the immune system, physiology of autoimmunity. So I was referring to my book, Guyton and Hall, chapter 34 and 35, and then Anantha Narayanan and Panikkar textbook of microbiology a little bit. So what are we going to do is, and can I have the next slide, please? Yep. So autoimmunity in the beginning, like every other thing, literally it means like horror of self-toxicity. That's a term coined by a German immunologist, Paul Ehrlich, and then to describe the body's innate aversion, like rejection to immunological self-destruction. Next slide, please. So as usual, this concept of autoimmunity as the cause of human illness is relatively new, and it was not accepted into the mainstream of medical thinking until 1950s. Even there is a debate. If you actually do some literature search, you can find like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, whatnot, like long COVID with a lot of fatigue issues is concerned with autoimmunity. Like we'll discuss about that tolerance later, like bystander response and persistent damage and molecular mimicry. We'll discuss about that later. And what I'm going to do is discuss from this book, Guyton and Hall, about the genesis of leukocytes. I will just go through the book with you about the lifespan and physiological mechanisms involved in the immunity, like phagocytosis, reticuloendothelial system, and then walling off the effect of inflammation and what is the response of the macrophages and neutrophils during inflammation. And in chapter 35, we all know like there is types of immunity and how this pre-processing of T and B lymphocytes, memory cells, and complement system for antibody action. And finally, I will touch a little bit about central and peripheral tolerance of immunity. Can I have the next slide, please? Yep. I would like to acknowledge my professors to begin with. Dr. Shyamla, then Dr. Subhashini Buhari sir, guided by Dr. Madhusudana Rao, Dr. Priscilla ma'am, Dilara ma'am, Vadivel sir, a lot. And I was guided by Dr. Madanika Madhavan ma'am, who was a professor and HOD in Chibalaji Medical College. And this one, I remember, she always tells like, when you are in primary school, go to school, listen to the teacher, whatever she says, just listen, come back home, take your book, and then you'll be telling your mom or dad or anyone, oh my God, whatever is what my teacher told is there in the book, and it is so amazing, and my teacher knows everything. Next slide, please. But when we get into university or high school, our attitude fully changes, whether you go through the soft copy or hard copy of your clinical medicine, anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, and whatnot. We think like, oh my God, what is like, whatever the professor actually was speaking today was there in the book. Like she just knows what is there in the book, and so I can go through the book. So similarly, we are going to go through the book now, Guyton and Hall. Next slide, please. Yes, this is chapter 34. And as we all know, like we have to read about the genesis of leukocytes, like the white blood cells. We know that granulocytes and agranulocytes, that is coming from the polymorphonuclear genomic line. And then we have neutrophils, basophils, and eosinophils as granulocytes, and then monocytes and lymphocytes as agranulocytes. And next slide, please. Yes, there are two lineages, like myelocytic lineage and lymphocytic lineage. This one, the white blood cells are formed in the bone marrow, and they are stored in the system, like until they mature. Like the immature cells are there, and lifespan of white blood cells are, there is the granulocytes, after being released, they live for 4 to 8 hours, and then maybe another 4 to 5 days in the tissues. But the monocytes, they enter into the tissue swollen, like they will be really become bigger. They will become a larger size, and then they will be staying there forever, waiting for any encounter, like for any bacteria or virus or some toxins or damaged tissues during inflammation. Whereas the lymphocytes, they enter the circulation, like through the drainage, like they just drain through the lymphatic system, the lymph nodes, and all the lymphoid tissues. And after a few hours, they pass into the blood, back into the tissues by the process called diapedesis. Like they form the food processes, and then they enter into the tissues, and then they re-enter into the lymph node, and then go into the blood, so that there will be a continuous circulation of lymphocytes. So the monocytes, they get into the tissues to form the macrophages, and we'll talk about the reticuloendothelial system later. But the lymphocytes, we'll talk about T and B lymphocytes later, but they actually have a continuous circulation through the lymphatics, tissue, and the circulation, the blood vessels. Yep. So in coming to the neutrophils and macrophages are the main defense mechanisms that are involved. And the neutrophils are mature cells that actually attack and destroy the bacteria, even in the circulating blood. That is, it is just ready to attack cells or neutrophils. And then the macrophages are triggered, and then they actually come and then help the neutrophils, and there is first line of defense. So we all know what is diapedesis. And then these cells, how they enter the white blood cells, how they enter into the tissue spaces is by an amoeboid motion into the tissue. They actually form a margination, diapedesis, and then they are attracted by some chemicals, which is called as chemotaxis, to reach the area of damage or area of during inflammation. And then they start engulfing the viral or viral and bacterial toxins, engulf and degenerate, and then that through the products of complement complexes, and this process is called as phagocytosis. So macrophages are neutrophils, they do swallow everything, and macrophages, they swallow the large, really large damaged tissues, whichever is foreign, not really needed, and they just do their job, what they have to do. Next slide, please. Yep. So this one, after this, once like the cells are phagocytized, like most of the particles are digested by the intracellular enzymes, and this monocyte, neutrophils, and macrophages, they kill the bacteria, virus, and whatever is not self-antigens. Underline the line, like not self-antigens. And then the monocyte macrophage cell system, that is the reticular endothelial system, we all know, like in the skin and subcutaneous tissues, it's called as histiocytes. In the lungs, it's called as alveolar macrophages. In the liver, it is called as Kupffer cells. And we have macrophages in the spleen and bone marrow. And all of those are doing the same job, like attacking and protecting our body, like the function of immunity. Can you have the next slide, please? Yeah, so when you look into that figure, this artery, vein, and then the venous sinuses, capillaries, and pulp, and the inflammation, there is a role of neutrophils and macrophages, and walling off inflammation. So inflammation is like wherever there is an inflammation, we all know there is a vasodilatation, that is increase in the diameter of the blood vessels so that the local blood flow is increased, and then that increases the permeability of the capillaries. So and also the next step is formation of fibrinogen products which will actually plug in, and then they form what is called as the pus or whatever, like they are swallowing, engulfing everything, and then the reactive particles, and they lysate. And yeah, and then coming to walling off, the effect of inflammation is like the clone of cells, just it will wall off the area of the inflammation. So it's again the process of diapedesis, amoebic movements, and then the chemotaxis, and then bringing all the local tissue, that is, they are going to cause an intense local tissue reaction, like damaging the tissues. Here in Guyton and Hall, there is a very, very important clinical implication. They have given like streptococcus and staphylococcus. We all know, let's take an example of impetigo, which is a skin infection, or even cellulitis caused by staphylococcus. They create a lot of local damage in 2 or 3 days. Like mom will bring the patient with school sores starting in the nose or somewhere, and the next day we can see all the crusty lesions all over the face or even the shin. That's because of a lot of local reaction, and then it takes a little bit of time for the macrophages to act, and then because of the local reaction, the macrophages act immediately, whereas the streptococcal, they don't actually cause local damage that much. They will just spread all over the body. So the immunity, like the macrophages already present in the tissues, will realize, like we'll talk about MHC and antigen presenting cells in a few minutes. So that will take a little bit of time, so that the neutrophil is the first line of defense, and macrophages, they are also first line of defense, but it will be a little bit delayed. That's the reason like streptococcal infections are really, really, really deleterious. Like they are very fast, and then not good. Like sometimes it might actually end up with fatal, and there is an immunity failure. So the next thing is, the blood neutrophils are already mature cells, and they are ready to immediately begin their scavenger functions, and then they kill and then remove the foreign matter, like just like that. It will just remove. And during this process of inflammation or infection, the neutrophils will be increased. So when you look into the biochemistry, blood results of the patients, like you can see, like the neutrophils, when they are increased, that means like there is something going on, like either viral infection or the bacterial infection. Yeah, and this diagram 34.6 says like the receptors. We have to understand the B cell receptors as well as T cell receptors, down regulation and clonal thing for understanding the tolerance, that we can talk it later. And the other thing, like what we need to understand is like the smoothness of the tissue, whatever tissue, it is actually not going to, the antibodies or even the B cells and T cells, they're not going to attack our own tissues because of the smoothness. And there is a layer which is coated, like a protein layer, which is coated in the tissues, which have the repelling capacity, so that they are not going to attack our own tissues. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, this one is just an inflammation, and we have like the basic thing, what we need to understand is granulocyte monocyte colony stimulating factor, granulocyte colony stimulating factor, monocyte colony stimulating factor. So these things are mediated by an inflammation. Like when the macrophage is activated, they form some tumor necrosis factor and then interleukins that will actually trigger the response, and then it actually forms the granulocyte and macrophage immune system. And about eosinophils, we all know like it has got an important role in the allergy mechanisms. Basophils also play a little bit of role in allergy mechanisms, and this is out of our topic today. But even though hypersensitivity is related to immunity, but we don't have time to discuss about it. And next slide, please. Yep, this is chapter number 35, and it's an easy chapter. Like coming to the types of immunity, there is an innate immunity and acquired immunity. Innate immunity is basically the skin, which actually prevents everything like fungus or whatever we have everywhere. The bugs and virus and fungus are there everywhere, but it is just preventing the invaders. And then phagocytosis, of course, like the acid in the stomach, whatever we swallow, we have got plenty of bugs in there, and that is all actually even the chemicals and the acid will destroy the foreign organisms or the bugs, whatever enters. And also we have some basic polypeptides which actually recognizes and then kill as soon as it enters into the lymphoid system or the blood circulation. Yeah, so and then this is innate immunity, and there are plenty of innate immunity examples. And the next one is acquired immunity. The acquired immunity, we know, like that is mainly maintained by the lymphocytes. That is an activated lymphocytes, T and B lymphocytes. The B lymphocytes are responsible for humoral immunity, and T lymphocytes are responsible for cell-mediated immunity. Next slide, please. So when we actually see this B cells, the name, it has got its name B cells because of the invention that it was found first in the bursa of fabricus, which is equivalent to the liver in the birds. But we can also see, like in figure 35.1, how this is processed, the B cells. It's a common lymphoid progenitor cell. They are actually forming the hematopoietic stem cells, which differentiate, and then form the common lymphoid progenitor cell, which is developing into B cell. So we need to remember when this one is happening, it is called as pre-processing in the bone marrow. The B cells, when they are exposed to, that's a common process. It is genetic thing, like a gene, a segment of the gene is involved in this process. So let's take an example. When we are playing the carom board, when you strike the coin correctly, it just goes and then fall in the pocket. Similarly, when this one is going to react to the self-antigen, that's all, they die. That is the main important thing which we have to remember about the immune tolerance. So that's how it is undergoing a lot of pre-processing and pre-screening, maybe for about 3 weeks. But also in the thymus, the T cells undergo the same process. I will explain in detail how it goes. Like during the process of maturation, when they are exposed to, when they are exposed to the self-antigen, when they act, they die. And when there is a B cell receptor, which is actually showing a lot of, enthusiastically reacting, then their B cell receptors, the number will be down-regulated. And also the B cell receptor activation is, not only B cell, T cell and B cell receptor activation is decreased. So I will repeat it, like we are actually studying about, like at the moment, we are studying about the B cell maturation of B cells and T cells in thymus and bone marrow. So T cells are matured in thymus and B cells are matured in bone marrow. So when it is happening, when they are exposed and when they are trying to be too smart, they are dying it. Like that is a process, is called as immune tolerance, and this is happening centrally, that is happening in the thymus, and in the bone marrow, it is called as central tolerance. And then peripheral tolerance, when some of the T cells, mature T cells and B cells, when they escape and come out and do the same thing, like when they, when they are trying to attack our own cells, they again die with the lymph node. Like inside the lymph node, there is another mechanism, the same mechanism, but they die there. So that's how autoimmunity or formation of autoantibodies is prevented at this stage itself. So the thymus, it's happening in utero, like last few weeks of in utero, and then the thymus gland, as we all know, like that regress slowly. So you can ask me like how they actually found like it is getting, or when they try to attack our own cells, they are dying. It is because a lot of experiments have been done. They gave in animals, like when the rat was actually having the baby in uterus, in utero, they actually inject the antigens, the self antigens of the same mom, the rat moms. They actually rejected. That's how they actually found like, okay, so there is a progenitor, lymphoid progenitor cells are declined or dying eventually from activated lymphocytes, T in the thymus gland, B in the bone marrow. So B lymphocytes are destined to form the antibodies. Yep. They are, can I continue? Are you able to hear me? Yeah, can I continue? Can I continue?
Just a few seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Now,
Yeah. So this is actually destined. So pre-processing of the T and B lymphocytes, we are really thorough about the thymus gland and also the bone marrow. So T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes react highly specifically against specific antigens. So that is the role of the lymphocyte clones. Can I have the next slide, please? So there are millions and millions and millions of B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes, but there are a little bit of genes which are actually coding. So what we understand is the gene fragments as well as millions of different combinations of which the segments can be arranged in a single cell, that actually make us understand that millions of different cell gene types that can occur for each functional T and lymphocyte is finally formed. So to become a functional T lymphocyte or B lymphocyte, not to attack our own self antigens, there is plenty of this clone is actually undergoing plenty of pre-processing things. And I think like memory cells and vaccination is out of our topic today. So can we go to the next page, please? Next slide.
Ma'am?
Yeah, next slide, please.
We move the next slide, ma'am.
I can move.
No.
Ma'am, we are.
Is this okay? Is this the slide?
Oh, yeah. So, yes, thank you. So, what are the special attributes of cell-mediated immunity? You know, like T cells, cell-to-cell adhesion processes, and then the foreign body is presented by MHC, like major histocompatibility complex 1 and 2, and they present it, and mostly the dendritic cells are the antigen-presenting cells. They present it to the T cell or the B cell. So B cell produces a lot of plasma cells which mature into immunoglobulins G, M, E, D, and A, and then they are otherwise called as antibodies. And T helper cells, T cytotoxic, and T suppressor cells also come into play. Like T helper cells are mainly acting through interleukin 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then G and M colony stimulating factors and interferons. And T helper cells are going to activate the B cells, and then you all know like HIV and everything, acquired immunodeficiencies, and these T cells, the cytotoxic T cells directly attack the foreign bodies or toxic, whatever they are supposed to do. They form the pore, and then otherwise they will create like secrete some opsonins, which are the chemicals which are tasty for that antigen. So they will go, the T cytotoxic cells will go there and attack the toxins or virus or bacteria, and then form some pores and kill them. So the cytotoxic helper done, and then the suppressor T cells are going to check, like they are going to check everything is done in a proper way. It will not it will not allow the T suppressor or T helper cells to act too smart. They will put a check over there. And next slide, please.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
we are not audible.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead, ma'am. Do you need the next slide? Is this okay?
Yes. And I think we can go to the next. Yep, I can read this part. Yeah, most tolerance actually results from clone selection during pre-processing. That's what I was trying to tell. Like when there is a pre-processing, the clone is actually selected. So if it is negatively selected, it leads to destruction of autoimmune cells, auto antibodies. So failure of tolerance mechanism that causes autoimmune diseases. And then we know, like, it starts from uveitis, autoimmune thyroiditis, Hashimoto's, and then rheumatic fever, and then systemic lupus erythematosus, multiple sclerosis that affects our own myelin in the brain is attacked. Like, can I have the next slide, please? So this is copyright. Multiple sclerosis, good posture, type 1 diabetes, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, hemolytic anemia, and nephritis and hepatitis. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this one, I referred it from Anandanarayanan and Panikar. So because we discussed earlier, I will just go through again. The central tolerance that's occurring during the maturation of both B cells and T cells in thymus and bone marrow. The lymphocytes that strongly recognize self-antigens are eliminated. They die or modified to become tolerant, and that prevents the maturation of self-reactive lymphocytes. So they die inside and they don't go out of thymus and they don't go out of bone marrow. Peripheral tolerance is that happens outside of the lymphocytic development because of some control, like self-control. Self-reactive lymphocytes are controlled, preventing the elimination and also activation. Can I have the next slide, please? Yep, this is again the bone marrow, the pro B cells, pre B cells, immature B cells with B cell receptors. When they show high affinity or interaction with self-antigens, or when there is a strong B cell receptor signaling, that's all, they die. So one is apoptosis, like the process of programmed cell death. And number 2 is receptor editing. That means like the receptor is actually changed not to react. And then otherwise there is a down regulation of B cell receptors, otherwise called as energy, like clonal energy. That is like they go in for hibernation. So next slide, please. Yep. So central tolerance of T cells and B cells both are same. When they recognize the self-antigen, that's all. There is a receptor editing and apoptosis. When there is a weak recognition, they make it unresponsive and make them tolerant. And if they are not tolerant, they down-regulate the receptor expression and energy, and that's all, like negative selection, and that's all. But we all know that everything is not perfect. So not all self-antigens can be presented in bone marrow and thymus during development. So some self-reactive immature cells can mature normally and they all escape into the periphery. So to prevent the activation of potentially active autoantibodies, there is a peripheral tolerance. Next slide, please. That happens in the lymph node. So when you look into the lymph node, the same like the antibodies, the plasma cells, like one B lymphocyte, that blue one is B lymphocyte, are forming plasma cells. They are forming antibodies, that YYY thing. And then they either cause apoptosis and clonal energy when they actually react too smart or trying to attack our own self antigens, like self. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yes, the thymus development, there is a 3-week training process. So in 3 weeks in the thymus, can I have the next slide, please? The subscapular region, cortex, corticomedullary, and medulla, they slowly get exposed to self-antigens. When they react, that's all, apoptosis. When they don't react, they are actually coming out from the thymus. So it's happening 3 weeks of intensive thymic training. Next slide, please. Yes, there is a double positive stage. So T cell receptors are having a co-receptor like CD8 and CD4. CD4 is for T helper, CD8 for T cytotoxic cells. So 80% of cells of thymus are undergoing this double positive stage. That means double negative means the co-stimulation. Co-stimulation means already thyroid, sorry, not thyroid, T receptor cells are there, T cell receptor cells are there, but this CD8 and CD4 co-receptors are coming and then stimulating. So they have to do double negative. That means like inhibition, double inhibition. So that's called as negative selection. Next slide, please. Yep. So after several rounds of selection process, they die when they are going to act. Next slide, please. Yeah, same thing. There is low affinity, next round of selection process, high affinity, they die. Immediately they die. Next slide, please. So this one, we call that as molecular mimicry. The best example is rheumatic fever. You know, like the streptococcal bee will come and then attack our throat. The throat infection, they attack and then the antibodies are formed, both by the neutrophils and the macrophages. They'll all go and then try to engulf the streptococcal. That the antibodies are, what is it called? Like M protein, isn't it? Like M protein, which is formed, actually has got an affinity in the heart valves, where in the joints also, where it is a mimicry, the same peptide. It looks like the same streptococcal receptors, like, so that they will go and attack the heart valves and leading to rheumatic fever, leading for rheumatic valvular diseases and arthritis. Next slide, please. Yeah, so rheumatic fever is a classic example of molecular mimicry. So group A, streptococcal gas that is present in the throat infection, they express large amount of M protein. So this large amount of immunoglobulins, when you see a lot of green antibodies against M protein on streptococcus, but these antibodies against M protein can bind to molecules on the valves or also cardiac cells that are very, very, very similar to M protein. So the antibody-induced injury to the normal heart valves and then my muscles and whatnot, like arthritis and all the joints. Next slide, please. Yeah, so there is also something called as bystander activation. Like these antibodies are really aggressive against the antigens, but sometimes they have been taught in the bone marrow and thymus, please don't react. Just keep quiet, just keep quiet, just keep quiet. But sometimes when the viral B cell and T cell are there, the dendritic cells, which are the antigen presenting cells, you just see how they are going. And then the immunoglobulins are actually activating because it's bystander and then telling like, can you please help me? And that's how the autoreactivity and B cells are activated. And this is one of the reason for autoimmune diseases. The next slide, please. Yeah. So epitope spread. I was trying to really understand this. So what is happening is epitope is an antigenic determinant. Like it is not antigen, but it is an antigenic determinant. And this epitope spreading begins when there is a tissue damage. You know, when you see the cell surface receptor, it has got two parts, the intracellular and extracellular. Can you see that receptor? So the intracellular component and the extracellular component, the antibody is going to try and then attacking the extracellular component, but because it is our own cell surface, I'm talking about the normal scenario. There is no toxins, no virus, no bacteria. So it is actually trying to attack. But what is happening is when there is a prolonged damage, the portion of foreign protein, like whenever it was there, it is actually stimulating the immune response now. Some leftover. Previously, we had some COVID or influenza, whatever it is. That is an epitope is an antigenic determinant, which was there, is that spreading begins when this immunoglobulin is trying to get inside and attached to the intracellular component of the receptor. So prolonged inflammation, that makes sense when somebody is saying like long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome after some Ross River fever or even Epstein-Barr virus glandular fever. That makes sense. Like, why are you so tired? Why are we so tired? That is because of the epitope spreading when there is a tissue damage, but it is not concerned with the memory response. But when there is a portion of foreign protein is left behind, that induces the immune response, which is a prolonged inflammation, like capillary, so actually still leaky, and then there is some vasodilatation and whatnot, like all signs of inflammation causes the immune response. So this is again the other reason for the activation of autoreactive T and B cells. So we saw that apoptosis, clonal energy, and then molecular mimicry are trying to protect us from autoantibodies action. But this molecular mimicry, bystander response, and then the persistent or prolonged damage, epitope spreading, this causes the activation of autoreactive T and B cells. Next slide, please. Yep. So there is an activation of autoreactive T and B cells because of the viral persistence. We all know, like they go like all virus, they like to go and sit in the bone marrow for a long period of time. So there is an opportunity of autoreactive T and B cells to be formed. So similarly, that too for the kids, we said like let them get influenza and then get rid of it. So they get continuous respiratory tract infections. And when the virus is sitting there for prolonged time, also in the blood vessels, that causes some autoreactive T and B cells, which is going to attack in later period of life. And this is just a theory. It's not proved, like it's just a research which is going on. Next slide, please. Yeah, as far as we know, like autoimmune diseases is really, really hard to diagnose. They come with normal symptoms like, let's say like SLE, it's really, how many of us have actually diagnosed immediately? It's really, really hard. They say like a lot of immunity, I'm getting infections very easily. Some skin rash, pleuritis, pain, like pain in the chest, not able to breathe, and a lot of things. And they come to the doctor very frequently. And then we need to find out, oh my God, is it like not viral, not vascular, not neoplastic, it's not something else, it's not genetic, then what? Could be autoimmune. So question mark. So it is a diagnosis of exclusion. So the cause may be viruses or bacteria and also genetics. We discussed that, but we need to do really, really more research to find out how to actually diagnose early and then get into that point of actually treating them. But at the moment, we all know like we are trying to treat symptomatically because we are not able to treat the cause, treat the inflammation like pleuritis, pericarditis, whatnot, like arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, everything we are treating with steroids and immunomodulating agents like Methotrexate is the commonest one. Disease-modifying agents, immunosuppressants, oral steroids, prednisolone, and then non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs just to alleviate the symptoms. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yep, we discussed about this, like the lymph node. Its absence of co-stimulation, I told you, like CD4 and CD8, they both will come and then join hands with the T cell receptor. So already the T cell receptor is jumping to attack our own cells, and then this T cell CD4 and CD8 is combining together, and there is a double positive reaction. So they have to do absence of co-stimulation should be done by co-inhibition, by apoptosis, energy, and whatnot, like attacking the cells. And there are also tumor growth factor, beta and IL-10. They actually regulate the CD4 by immunosuppressive cytokines. So they inhibit the lymphocyte activation and also the thing what they want to do. Next slide, please. The next slide, we discussed this already. So initial diagnosis, as I told you earlier, like it's really, we are missing in patients. That too, I really feel sad for fibromyalgia patients. The pain is real, but every test is coming back, CRPs, ESR, whatnot, like rheumatoid factor, anti-citrullinatic peptides, whatever you do, like anti-nuclear antibodies, extractable nuclear antibodies, SLE antibodies, anti-smooth muscle antibodies, everything will come back negative. But we should also understand, like, these antibodies may be present in lot of blood samples, because of the naturopath ask for all these antibodies. We do it and it will be present, but there will be no symptoms. So autoimmune disease doesn't mean that when the autoantibodies are present, they'll not actually manifest as a disease. So, and it is the other way around. So the fever, muscle ache, fatigue, joint pain, as we always think like, is it a cancer? Is it a cancer? Similarly, we should start thinking, is it an autoimmune disease? So disease-specific manifestations are like SLE, dry mouth. They come until dry mouth, and we say like, you're on oxybutynin, you're on amitriptyline. That's a side effect of this. But we should always think about autoimmune diseases, which is actually affecting them. And next slide, please. Yep, we always do autoantibody titers like antiphospholipids, anti-DNA, C-reactive protein ESR, disease-specific antigens, and full blood examination, neurological examination for MS. But MRI is the diagnostic and confirmatory, and fasting glucose for diabetes. Yes, type 1 diabetes. Yep, next slide, please. Treatment options at the moment: symptomatic management, immunosuppressant, disease modifying, cell blocking agents are really doing well. Teplizumab, but it is really expensive. Humira is so good for psoriasis. Like I have seen whole body covered with psoriatic lesions. One dose of Humira, like tumor necrosis factor, that's all done. Like they feel a lot better. And also psoriatic arthritis respond very well for cytokine blocking reagents and cell blocking reagents. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. And feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. And it's really good opportunity for me to kindle my physiology brain, because it was so dormant. I was not using that brain at all. And every day I was remembering everyone. If I have a minute, I can tell like about my colleagues like Tamarai Selvi, Andrew Selvan sir, Ganesh sir, Prince, Dr. Bhagavad Gita, Dr. Rupa, oh my God, Sita Lakshmi, I can't actually forget those days. And then after I started preparing for this and studying my Gaitan, I felt so good. So you guys enjoy your post-graduation, like learning not only the book, a lot of things we used to learn, like punctuality, teaching, public speaking, handling the teenagers, like you'll become a counselor, psychological counselor. Yeah, getting help from, like, I remember getting help from Renuka, Vasu, Sendil, David, and Pungudi. It's a team, like, I don't know whether they are there. I feel like crying. So it is so good that you gave me this opportunity, whether I have done my job correctly or not. But I really, really thank you guys.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll just give us a few minutes to do the rest of the formalities.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nandini Rangarajan, for the insightful and enlightening session. Your deep dive into the core concepts of central and peripheral tolerance, cell-mediated immunity, and antigen-antibody reaction. The learning journey guided us towards the understanding of rheumatic fever, SLE, and fibromyalgia through the application of these basics. Now we would like to open the floor for any questions you may have. We would like to invite questions from the audience. If you have anything you would like to discuss further or seek clarification on, please feel free to raise your hand or type your question in the chat. You may please
They have to request to speak. Either they can.
Yeah, you can request to click a request to speak, and we can give you access. Or if you can also get into the chat box and type the questions.
Don't
Yes.
ask me about epi spreading. That is homework.
Yes, Mahima, the
Epitoph-
access has been given. Mahima, you were. We have a question, ma'am, with Gokila Swaminathan. Ma'am, how to start investing when we suspect autoimmune disease, from which test and how to proceed? How to start investigating when we have suspect autoimmune disease, from which test and how to proceed?
Yeah, so I will just share my experience. I think, like, we have to do some probable clinical diagnosis before we get into that. A lot of cascade of investigations. Like when a patient is coming, I have what do you call, like, diagnostic criteria to do that. First of all, like, it is infective or inflammatory, or is it vascular? Like, okay, it's not infective, it's not inflammatory, and it is not genetic. Let's take an example of rheumatic fever is so hard. Like, when somebody is coming with rheumatoid arthritis, 60-year-old man is coming and then telling, like, I have been active throughout my life, and now I have this one. My both bilateral knees are aching, and it's not at the base of the thumb, doc. Like, it's in the wrist. I'm just getting this pain, and then it actually the light comes, the bulb comes. Like, oh my God, are you having any stiffness? Is there any early morning stiffness? And he will come out, yes, doc, I'm not able to stand up for the next 1 hour, and after I start moving, it's okay. So we can do just basically, if you suspect rheumatoid arthritis, you can do just full blood examination, ESR, CRP, just inflammatory markers, and then specifically we can ask for rheumatoid factor, and then anti-CCP, citrulline peptide, C-peptide, and then yeah, that's all I do. I don't want to waste government's money by doing a lot of blood tests. When the patient says like, yes, I have stiffness for 1 hour, more than an hour in the morning, and bilateral wrist joint and knee joint pain, it is autoimmune. It's not looking like an inflammatory. It's not looking like an osteoarthritis. There's no swelling. There's no joint line tenderness at that moment. And then clinical history is so towards rheumatoid arthritis. So we can just ask for ESR, CRP, full blood count, and do that. But technically, if you want to confirm the diagnosis, the best way is doing the X-ray of metacarpo phalangeal joint, because that's the very, very erosive features, erosive changes can be seen in metacarpophalangeal and also metacarpotarsal joints, sorry, metatarsophalangeal joints. That will give another clue. And if you suspect SLE, again, the patient is coming again and again, 23-year-old female, like coming again and again and again and again, maybe once in 2 weeks, and telling like, I have got this joint pain. It's gone now. But I have got some rash in my shin. It has gone now. And then I have got some pain when I'm breathing. So I always believe like clinically listen, and then with the clinical features for SLE, we can order again full blood examination, CRP, ESR, and then anti-smooth muscle antibodies and SLE antibodies. That's it. We get the point. And even before that, we can start using prednisolone, oral high-dose prednisolone, and then see how it goes. That's what I do. But you have to ask the immunologist and rheumatologist what they do. They will do differently. Did I answer you? Any other questions?
Yes.
In SLE, we can chest X-ray also, like chest X-ray to find out whether there is any pleural changes or pericarditic changes in SLE. But basically, we can find out even before that.
Not
Yeah. Butterfly rash is so evident.
Does anybody have any other clarifications?
I forgot to tell you something like for multiple sclerosis, like when you ask investigations, every autoimmune disorder, we have different, like multiple sclerosis, gadolinium MRI scan immediately do it, like when a patient is coming with diplopia or some kind of visual blurring, 20-year-old or 30-year-old female, immediately do that. Don't wait for any headache or any symptoms, just do MRI. Tick the box like it is not multiple sclerosis. Don't wait until they go for losing their balance or doing like that. So answer is, the essence is like it depends upon every clinical scenario and what do you call, like every other autoimmune disease.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am. So if there's no other question, then yeah.
On behalf of the Department of Physiology, it's my pleasure and privilege to propose the vote of thanks. We thank management, officials, Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, and Pro-Vice Chancellor for providing a state-of-art infrastructure and unstinted support in our academic activities. We extend our sincere thanks to Dr. K. Balaj Singh, sir, the Dean Medical College, for being the pillar of support in all our academic endeavors. We express our sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Nandini Rangarajan ma'am, for taking her time off to share her knowledge and expertise in the core area of physiology of immunity. It's a pleasure to extend a heartfelt gratitude to our management, administration, and HOD ma'am, Dr. K. Muthu Pratibha ma'am, for hosting such guest lectures, which helps to stimulate higher order learning among undergraduate and postgraduate students. We also thank her for helping us in meticulously planning each and every step of the event and executing it successfully. I'd like to thank our senior professors, Dr. Priscilla Johnson ma'am and Dr. Abhirami Omprakash ma'am, for encouraging and guiding us throughout during all our educational activities. My special thanks goes to PAL6 team coordinator, Dr. Vivek sir, Assistant Professor of Physiology, for taking sincere efforts in planning and coordinating the program. I'm also thankful to my co-PGs for preparing the invitation for audiovisual arrangements and for anchoring this event. I extend my sincere gratitude to other members of the Department of Physiology, faculty, technicians, secretary, and the support staff for their sincere, untiring efforts to make this program a grand success. Last but not the least, we thank the participants from various institutions around the global, undergraduate, medical, and paramedical students, paramedical postgraduate who have joined us online. Hope this session was educative and enlightening on the course concepts on autoimmunity. We also thank our communication and audiovisual team for their continuous support to conduct this program in online mode. Thank you once again. Wishing you a great day. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder. E-certificates will be provided to all participants once you fill the post-test and feedback form. Stay tuned for upcoming PALS lectures. Thank you once again. Have a great day.
So we'll share the post-it link in the chat box. Kindly fill them and also give the feedback, which also will be shared in the chat box.
We can.
So much. Hi, ma'am.
Hello. I don't know. I'm searching for the link button.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to you. Thank you to all the participants who joined us. Zoho was not easy. I also take the opportunity to thank Vivek, who was the coordinator for PAL6, and first year MD postgraduates, despite being new in the department, had pitched in and done their job of coordination very well. And thank you, Priscilla ma'am, for joining us. And thank you all PGs and faculty from our department. Thank you, Nandini ma'am. So until next time then.
Yeah. It's my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. For a few minutes, we will keep the a session on so that the post-test and the feedback link will be shared. Requesting the participants to please fill it up. Thank you very much. It was went through pages of Gaitan. So in a very sweet way, it is a reinforcement to our PGs that sometimes it is not about big things, but going back to the basics and looking through it. And Gaitan is a humble reminder that everything is there inside me. You just need to keep reading it adequately, isn't it, ma'am? Yeah.
Yes. In between the lines. We need to read in between the lines.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was beautiful that the way you used Gaitan. So I believe like our postgraduates and any other postgraduate who's signed up online can take the basic message that to do the physiology of autoimmunity, you need to do chapter 34 and 35 very well. And of course, I love the fact that you brought Anantanarayanan and Panikkar inside because immunology, if you need to do immunology well in physiology, one needs to go back to, go forward to microbiology and do those few chapters there, ma'am, actually. So lovely choice of textbooks. I must make a mention about that. And thank you for sparing your time. You're from a different time zone, but you accommodated our request and did it for us. Thank you so much, ma'am. So visit India. I look forward to seeing you when you come to Chennai.
Yes.
In the department, ma'am. That would be lovely to do sometime.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So in a few minutes, we will wind up with the meeting, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, participants. I hope you've got the link to the post-test and feedback.
So the post-test link and the feedback link has been pasted in the chat box. So kindly fill the post-test and the feedback form.
Maybe we can also send it in the PALS
Yeah, we
group.
will also post the
In the WhatsApp
link in the
group, so that
WhatsApp
those who
group.
miss it out should do it in the next, probably 10-15 minutes, because the form will be closed after that. This is to restrict participants from using the link later to fill feedback forms or the post-test forms. So in the next 15 minutes, please log in either through the chat box or through the WhatsApp group and fill up the post-test and feedback forms. Thank you, participants.